How's it going, guys? Just before we start this episode today, I'm not going to take up much of your time because I know you want to get straight over to the episode, but just want to say thank you so much for being here, for listening in and watching this episode. Whatever your platform you're on, it makes a massive difference that you're here, and I know you're going to come away from it with something really good and useful. Just want to say quickly, though, that over the last few years doing this podcast and building it up, we have really gone from 0 to 100 in just the guest range, the editing, every element of it has just increased, and all of it has really been down to the incredible subscriber base who have hit that subscribe button and supported me on this journey. And I'm going to ask you, please, if you could do the same today. Just hitting that subscribe button or that follow button, whatever platform you're on, makes a massive difference to the journey that I'm on with this podcast. And truly, every subscriber contributes to getting a bigger and a better and a more famous guest on the show, and it just makes everything possible. So guys, if you could please just do me the favor of hitting that subscribe button or a share or leaving a rating and a review, it makes a massive difference to this journey I'm on. So guys, thank you, and without further ado, let's get over to the episode. How's it going, guys? Welcome to episode 117 of Talk4, the Quickfire podcast, where we ask 4 great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Skupien. That's me. And let me introduce our special guest for today. James Craigmyle is going to be answering some questions today. So, James, how you doing today? And welcome to the show, man.
I'm good. I appreciate you having me on, Lewis. This is a great opportunity. After you reached out, I watched a couple of your podcasts, and I think you do a good job. I'm proud of you. It's some people get scared behind the mic. Some people get scared meeting new people, and I think it's great, especially now that you're all the way in the UK, and here I am in Missouri, and we're able to connect. I think it's neat. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. Yeah, no, it's cool that we get to do this kind of stuff. Like you said, you're over in the States across the pond, and I'm here, and we get to talk and discuss cool stuff, and I get to explore a profession, and it's just, yeah, it's a privilege and an honor. I'm glad to have you here. So, right, let's kick it off with kind of the elevator pitch, if you will. 30 to 60 seconds roughly, just a little bit about who you are, what your day job is, and just a little intro into the life of you. That'd be great, just to kick us off, then, please.
Yeah. So my name's James Craigmyle. I grew up here in Missouri, joined the Army, retired from the Army, worked as the deputy sheriff for a local sheriff's office here in Missouri. I've done everything from TV and film to runway modeling. I was actually in Italian Vogue magazine, filmed with Tyler Perry, have met and friends with people like Val Kilmer, and throughout that career, I got to do a lot of TV stuff. LivePD on A&E, which I know aired over there in the UK, and some of our friends across the pond over there. And with LivePD, I developed a show called America's Top Dog on A&E that aired for 4 or 5 seasons. And then I hosted America's Project Canine Hero on Great American Country, and now I own my own dog boarding, dog daycare, dog training facility. We board cats as well, and doing a little bit of stuff back in the movies again. A good friend of mine, Richard Grieco, he's getting ready to do a film, so going to try to jump on board with Richard and do some film with him.
Nice. That's a loaded career you've got right there. I mean, congrats to you. That's so impressive. But I guess the burning question really is then, where was that transition from Vogue modeling to canine training in the Army and stuff? So talk me through the backstory. How did all that come about for you, and kind of what motivated your career change? And just talk to me a bit about kind of like your career up to this point then.
Well, so the modeling started whenever I was young. I was 15, 16 at the time, and my mom had got my sister into modeling. She was doing some runway modeling and fashion modeling. So I went, and the lady that owned the modeling company, she said, "Hey, I'd like for you to do some modeling stuff." And back then I was a young kid. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like me." She said, "I'll pay you." I said, "Okay, I'll take some money." So one thing led to another. I was doing some magazines. I was doing some video commercials. some still photos, stuff like that. And then we got into doing some mannequin modeling in Windows. And then Vogue had seen some of my photos, and they had reached out to my agent at the time and asked me to be in, it's called L'Uomo Vogue, which is the Italian Vogue model for, or brand for them overseas. So they flew over here to the States and they did some photo shoots, and that started taking off. And then after high school, I thought, I don't know if I can make a career out of it. I'm not making enough money to be able to support myself. So then I went in the military. I went over to Afghanistan and Iraq and those conflicts and those wars, and retired from the military and joined the Greene County Sheriff's Office. And it was during my career in Greene County whenever I became a canine handler, something I've always wanted to do since I was 6 years old. So I made it a career for myself. I became an internationally certified canine instructor, so I can train dogs all over the world. The training that I got actually derived from Germany. So a bunch of the Europeans back in the early dawnings of understanding how to train dogs developed this training style for military and law enforcement, and a bunch of people wanted to learn how they were training dogs, and it was something that they really kept the secrets and all the training to themselves. And then PSP was derived out of that and brought to the United States, and that's what they train here for certification. So one thing led to another, and then while I was doing the dog stuff, the TV started coming back. All of the TV, the acting, the commercials, the programs, everything started slowly coming back. And big show LivePD on A&E, which aired all over the world. They came to us, and I was on LivePD for right at 2 years, which was the #1 show on television across the world, not just here in the States. And then from LivePD came America's Top Dog, and from America's Top Dog came Tyler Perry, and from Tyler Perry came guys like Val Kilmer and Muse Watson and Richard Grieco that I got to meet and hang out with, and big athlete stars like Patrick Mahomes from the Kansas City Chiefs, Anthony Sherman from the Kansas City Chiefs. Just a whole slew of things started coming around, and then I started training. I don't know, have you ever heard of the Brady Bunch?
No, I haven't. No, tell me about it. Tell me about it.
So the Brady Bunch was a huge family sitcom back in the 70s and 80s here in the States. And one of the actors on there, Barry Williams, is very well known here in the States. He reached out to me, so I trained his dog. So I've kind of got the famous actors under my belt now that I've been able to train their dogs and stuff. And then I thought, you know what, I want to open up my own facility. So I transitioned into business ownership, and now I own Canine Hideaway here in Springfield, Missouri, which is a dog and cat boarding, dog daycare, dog training facility. And I'm getting ready to put in a water park in the back of it. So we're excited about where the future is going with the company.
That's amazing. Oh my God, man, you're doing so well. And what a fun industry to be in. I mean, that must be really gratifying and good fun as well, especially if your passion's in there for that too. So, I mean, how do you even get into that in the first place? Like, where does that, where does canines come into it? Is it something you apply to? Do you get selected in police force to go into that department? How does that all work?
Yeah, so here in the States, you have to apply for it. So I worked at the Greene County Sheriff's Office as a patrol deputy, just going around protecting citizens, answering calls, arresting bad people. So from there, we never had a canine unit at the agency that I worked for. And I applied. I applied for the first canine position, ended up not getting it. I applied for the second position, ended up not getting it. So I applied for the third canine position, and I ended up getting it. Like I say, from the time that I was about 6 years old, I knew that I wanted to train police canines because there was a Christian County deputy that had a patrol dog, and I loved what he did. I loved that he was able to take his dog with him to work.
Mm.
So that's something I wanted to do, and I ended up, 20 some years later, being able to make that happen. So I got into training the dogs as an international canine handler. And then after about 6 years as a handler, I had been through enough training and experience. I was selecting dogs that we were getting from Europe, from the UK, from Asia, all over the United States. I was selecting those dogs for police dogs here in the US. So I became an instructor. And then from my instructor status, I was able to train personal pets, house pets, law enforcement, military working dogs, search and rescue dogs. So it really just kind of blossomed from there to where I am today.
Give me some insight into this then. So you look at the police force and stuff, and you look at, obviously, like I said, the police force, but from kind of like my at least public understanding of canine units and stuff, they're very specialized units for certain missions. But in terms of actually how important they are, like how critical is a canine unit in the police force? Like how much of a role do they play? You know, are they underappreciated by the public? Just kind of give me a little insight into how important it is to have them and what kind of roles they fill within the work that they do.
Yeah, so they're extremely critical. It's a vital position that can de-escalate a horrible situation. So you have a dog there that is barking and showing some teeth. That can really de-escalate a situation. So if you have somebody who is he's wanting to fight the police officer and you have a canine on scene and you tell him, hey, look, that's not a smart idea. If you do, you're going to get dog bit. That person will usually say, okay, I give up and go peacefully typically. But dogs, their sense of smell, their keen sense of hearing is crucial to law enforcement because they can let you know if maybe there's somebody that's hiding in the woods from you. They can let you know where their narcotics are whenever you're finding the illegal narcotics, the cocaine and the meth and the heroin and the fentanyl and everything. They can locate that stuff that we probably couldn't. They are able to, because of case law, utilize dogs to get us into vehicles where people transport illegal drugs. People transport children. People usually who transport children or the illegal pedophiles. That's what I was trying to think of. The pedophiles here in the States. A lot of them are doing drugs. So the way that we find those people in these U-Haul vans and everything is through the drugs. So it's very rewarding. It is crucial because a good canine team can de-escalate a bad situation and can protect a lot of lives. It's also a good bridge, a good gap between the law enforcement and the community. I'm not for sure how law enforcement perceived in the UK, but here in the United States, you have groups that hate them, you have groups that love them, and it varies on where you live and kind of the climate that has been going on in that area. So most everybody loves dogs. And even if you hate the cops, you probably love dogs. And it's a good bridge. It's a good gap to bridge gap the disdain between law enforcement and the citizens.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can tell they are probably massively underappreciated, like most things, but they have a massive role in law enforcement and, like you said, de-escalating big situations like that. So in kind of a nutshell, then, I know this is probably a very large topic to get into, but I'm just curious as someone who doesn't own a dog or anything like that. But how do you train a dog, especially like a canine unit? So obviously, it's a lot more difficult than just training a dog to sit, but how does that whole process work, from pup to, baring teeth and de-escalating situations with criminals? Like, how does that whole process look? What are the challenges there?
Yeah, so in law enforcement, especially, you're looking for a dog that has it in their heart. They want to do the job. They were born and they were bred to do it. It's much like an athlete. So you have people out there like I would never be good at pole vaulting and I would never be good at the Olympics swimming. But you have people like here in the United States, Michael Phelps, who he was born to do that stuff. Like it's in his genes to do that. He's got it in his heart. He's his physical stature, everything allows him to just glide through that water. Me, if you throw me in there, I'm going to look like a rock swimming across the water. I mean, I'm not going to be able to keep up with him. Dogs are the same way. We look for those dogs who are athletes. Dogs are athletes as well. Some dogs are not athletes. So we're looking for those athletic dogs that have it in their heart and their mind, the desire to want to do this stuff. Once we find that dog, then we motivate that dog through food. We motivate that dog through a toy. And we teach that dog. We get that dog to understand the language and the communication, because that's the barrier between humans and dogs, is language. Just like if I were to go to Asia, there's a language barrier there because I don't speak foreign languages. I would love to learn foreign language, but I just don't know any. I know a little bit to probably get me in trouble, but that's it. So we have to understand how to communicate with the dog and get the dog to do what we want them to do. So we start out in law enforcement from a puppy, or not from a puppy, but usually from a dog. Here in the States, we get them about a year old, and we start training them on narcotics. We start training them on tracking. We do building apprehension, suspect detention, article evidence searching. We're doing bombs. We're doing, you name it, accelerants. We teach them all in 12 weeks. So we'll take a dog that knows nothing, may not even know its name, and get it to where it needs to be within 12 weeks. And training personal pets, one thing that we found, or that I've been noticing, especially from COVID, the whole world was locked down during COVID, and dogs were stuck inside homes. Well, dogs did not get socialized. They didn't get the confidence building that they needed. So therefore, the dogs need some confidence, and teaching that dog to have the confidence to not be fearful of people, places, or things is in the pet world crucial right now, because we have a lot of strays. We have a lot of dogs that have been abandoned out there, and we just got to build their confidence up to get them to where they're not fearful. A more confident dog is going to be less apt to bark and bite and lunge at somebody. So that's the big thing right now, is building confidence in dogs.
Yeah, definitely. I've always been curious about how intelligent dogs actually are. And it kind of gets me wondering, because you've seen so much training of dogs go through, the system, and obviously high pressure situations. So have you ever seen situations where a dog has gone and taken its own initiative in a high pressure situation and done something that hasn't been trained to do that would obviously make a difference to the situation? Or does it always follow training protocol? How intelligent are they? I'm curious.
No, they are. They're extremely intelligent. And that's a good question, because you have to ask, we're asking a dog to go into a building to find a bad guy or a bad girl, a suspect, a bad person, and make a determination whether they can bite that person or not. So you have to understand that dogs are free, living, breathing, thinking creatures. They think on their own. And a lot of it goes back into the wild. You got to think about those wild natures, those wild tendencies. All dogs derive from wolves. I don't care what kind of dog it is. French bulldogs, English American bulldog, shepherds, they're all derived from wolves. So whenever we think about that, and we think about their natural instincts, what happens in the wild with a wolf or a dog that wants to go exploring on their own? They've left that pack. They've made that conscious decision to leave the pack. Or do they leave the pack? There's a lot of extensive studies and research out there that dogs are pack animals. Dogs do end up following a leader. There is a leader that comes out of that pack. So you got to think about, who is the leader in the pack at home? Who is the leader at the pack in law enforcement or military working dogs? And how do you establish that order, that, if you will, dominance, to where you're the leader and the dog isn't the one making the decisions? Because there are some people that you'll see that have dogs, that the dogs make the decision for the people, and the people don't even realize it.
How does that look then?
So you're looking at, like, I think of a Chihuahua. So if you got a lot of these people I've seen my grandmother, my great grandmother, for instance, she had a Chihuahua, and anytime she would go to get up off the couch, the Chihuahua would bite her. So the Chihuahua is basically telling her, no, 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 you stay here. You don't get up until I tell you to. Well, that's allowing that Chihuahua to be the leader of that pack, to be the leader of my great grandmother. And it's because, you know, she didn't know any different. I didn't know any different. I was 2, 3, 4 years old at the time. I don't know the difference between pack leaders and the dog trying to establish dominance and everything. But that's the dog communicating to the human of, no, no, you don't get up. I'm in charge here. You do what I say. Just wait.
Right. I see. So this is really interesting as well, because obviously us as humans in interaction, we have words to communicate, and we can establish the pecking order by communicating in that way. In the wild with dogs and wolves and stuff, obviously the pecking order is established by the strongest leader, essentially, and stuff. So in the kind of relationship between a human and a dog, in a situation like that, for example, how do you reestablish that pecking order? Is it body language? Is it an experience? Because obviously we're not going to hurt the animal, are we, nowadays? So how do you reestablish that pecking order without obviously being able to communicate that verbally?
Yeah. So all it is basically, in law enforcement or military, it's that command presence. It's that whenever you grab that leash, you have the confidence that you're going to ask the dog to do what you want it to do, and it's going to do it, and then the dog gets a reward. So let's say, for instance, if your dog continuously is running out the front door and not listening to you, and they just turn around and look at you and they're like, yeah, whatever, screw you, I'm not going to do it, because they're used to getting away with it. They're used to being able to do what they want when they want. And then all of a sudden, you put a collar on that dog and you put a leash on that dog. And now you're saying, all right, listen here, knucklehead. I'm in charge. You do what I say, and you get to go through the door when I tell you you get to go through the door, not when you want to. So you're starting to establish that dominance, that leadership mentality, that pack mentality of, all right, I'm in charge here, not you. You are no longer going to get to run through that door. Or if it's a dog that maybe they resource guard their owner, and whenever you come up to the owner, that dog is constantly growling or barking or trying to snap at somebody, you've got to break that umbilical cord between that owner and that dog and make that dog realize that that dog is not trying to dominate that human, that owner, that the owner can make those decisions. So you got to have that separation. You've got to be able to take that dog from the owner and teach that dog some confidence. And that owner has to establish the dominance in that relationship with that dog. Otherwise, that dog is just going to constantly, continuously just nip and bark and snap and just be chaotic. A dog's mind is just so chaotic. We've got to understand how to control that chaos.
Right. Makes sense. Out of interest then, do you think that there are parallels that can be drawn between that training of dogs and the way that you go about that to how humans interact with humans? So for example, in teams, in businesses where you have leadership and stuff, if like your subordinates don't respect your leadership or your authority and stuff in a business or in a sports team, or even maybe in like some families and houses and stuff, are there lessons and things that are non-verbal and stuff that we can take from that sort of training that you think may actually apply in terms of body language and how you impose yourself that would have the same effects from person to person? Yeah, what are the parallels there?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of it, because they say in law enforcement, especially, we'll go back to law enforcement since I've been in it for so long. If you look sloppy and you act like you don't know what you're doing, and you're not educating yourself, and you're not continuously learning new things and continuously just processing things through your mind on the what ifs, and you go up to a traffic stop and there's a suspect, there's a bad guy who really knows that they're going to kill you or that they're going to get away from this traffic stop no matter what, they're more apt statistically, after study after study after study, by talking to people in prisons, they're more apt to take advantage of you than they are the officer who comes up there who has a really nice pressed, cleaned, washed uniform. They've kind of got that command control presence that they're going to take over that traffic stop. and they're going to let you know why they stopped you, what's going on, and it's just going to be a step-by-step process where they're in control instead of allowing the person that they've come in contact with be in control. And it's like if you were to go to court here in the States, you've got the judge and the attorneys. And if you have the attorneys that go in there, you have one attorney that's going to establish dominance right off the beginning because they're going to know their stuff. They're going to be very well educated. They're going to do all the research. They're going to do all the studying. They're going to practice so that whenever it comes to the real thing, they're ready to go. They're 100%. It's the same transition there with dogs. If you come into a situation and you don't have a plan, it's not going to work. Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until you get punched in the nose. Well, that's true. After you get punched in the nose, there is no plan. It goes out the window, and it's just every man for himself. Dog training, being a good dog leader is the same way. You've got to be able to have a plan and practice it. Go over it in your mind, and the more that you do, the more the dog is going to respect you. The more the dog is going to want to work for you. It's like studying in school. In school here in the States, and I don't know about in Britain or UK or Asia or Australia, but here we have structured. So you go to school, you start out at 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and you go to your first class. And then, at the end of the class, the bell's going to ring, and you get either recess time or you get time to relax, or you got to go to your next class. So it's structured, just like college. It's structured. You got classes at certain times. There's certain lengths. They're in seat for probably 50 minutes, and then they get a 10-minute break. So that's the same way with dog training. You've got to have that structure and that discipline with the dogs. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to effectively communicate with them. So there is a good parallel there, like you say, between human to human and human to dog.
Really interesting. Do you think that so for example, let's say you take two people, both people are trying to train the same dog, and one person is stacked, been to the gym, trim, looks good, uniform, all set, the kind of epitome of like a good police officer, basically, the look. And then you have a guy who maybe is overweight or isn't dressed well, kind of dressed in baggy stuff, or just looks lethargic, looks a bit lazy, but they both say, do and act and hold themselves in the same sort of way. So the training that they give to the dog is exactly the same. Will the dog respond differently to both people just based on that appearance, do you think?
No, because I teach a lot of parents. It doesn't matter what we as humans look like. It matters how you deliver the message to the dog. It matters about your confidence in yourself. Everything you feel runs down that leash to the dog. So if you have anxiety, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling happy, if you're feeling all these fears or exuding this confidence, it all makes a good determination on how your dog is going to respond to the training. So much like they have dogs out there, they're emotional support animals. We have dogs out there that can smell the diabetes because of the way they're trained in humans. We have dogs that sniff out bed bugs. They've got COVID dogs. They've got dogs that can sense the seizures that you're getting ready to have in your body whenever you have a medical condition and you're getting ready to have a seizure. They have dogs that can sense all that because through the training, they're able to smell it. Dogs can smell that fear on you. Dogs can smell those pheromones that are exuding from your body, and they will take advantage of that. So if you have the confidence, your body changes. Your chemical makeup of your body changes whenever you're scared, when you're happy, when you're nervous. And we have proven this time after time after time because we have dogs that can find people just by using wind currents. So what I mean by that is if I have a human and I fly them in with an airplane or a helicopter and I drop them in the middle of a field, they didn't run in the field, they didn't walk in the field, they didn't drive in the field, they were literally dropped in the middle of the field, so there's no odor anywhere. And there is a good wind, my dog can find that person just because of their breathing. The dog uses the wind currents and the odor coming off of the wind currents to find that person. The more scared you are, the more fearful you are, the more pheromones you're putting off. You're sitting there sweating, you're nervous, your anxiety is really high. You're putting off those pheromones, and that dog can smell it, and they're like, I got you.
I see.
And they will find you. When they find you, it's up to you to give up or not. So yes, it doesn't matter if you're obese or if you're overweight or if you're sloppy. It doesn't matter if you're naked or if you got clothes on or if you smell good or if you smell bad. It doesn't matter. What matters is if you have the confidence to control that leash and to show that dog that you're in charge, that I am asking you to do something and you have to do it. And if you do it, you get the reward.
Right. So many questions off the back of that. So let's say someone's wearing aftershave or something. Someone's wearing aftershave. Can they still detect those pheromones? Because if you think about it, if those pheromones are so subtle that we couldn't detect it, but they can, surely something like a cologne or something will just absolutely be like ridiculous compared to that and just mask it. How does that work?
Yeah, so it can and it can't. It just depends. So the dog is picking up the odor. So the dog is going to smell that odor. Dogs' noses are so much more powerful than we can even imagine, like some 10 million times better than ours. So if you crack open a can of spaghetti sauce, you may smell the tomato, you may smell the garlic or the oregano in it. A dog can sit there and decipher each individual ingredient in that spaghetti sauce. That's how powerful their nose is. It's kind of like, do you guys ever get the Bush's baked bean commercial over there?
I've never heard of, I don't think so. We certainly get loads of Heinz ones, that's for sure.
So there's a commercial here in the States called Bush's Baked Beans. And the Bush's Baked Beans, they've got this dog on there, and the dog supposedly knows the secret recipe to these baked beans. Well, I always say, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I always say the reason they put that dog in there is because that dog can smell every single ingredient in those baked beans. So the dog, if they could talk, would tell the ingredients, but because dogs can't talk, the secret is safe with the dog.
I see.
So dogs' noses are so powerful that yes, if you're wearing cologne, you're still breathing. So you're expelling all of that carbon dioxide, all of those pheromones out of your nose or your mouth, and the dogs can pick it up. The dogs can smell it. Yes, they can smell that through cologne. It's amazing.
That's insane. So in terms of like, I mean, I find this subject really interesting. So in terms of what you've seen in training with dogs and how they respond to humans then, so if you have someone who is, let's say, they're trying to train a dog, and let's say I'm trying to train a dog, and I'm fearful of it, I'm scared of the situation, but I'm imposing that I'm confident, so I look confident on the outside, they can detect that?
Yes, they absolutely can. Yep, that's why we go over a thing. That's why everything is repetitious. That's why in dog training, you can't just do it once and the dog understand it. You yourself, the more that we do things, the more proficient we become. Just like the first time you probably did one of your very first podcasts, you were probably nervous.
Oh, terrible.
You probably, yeah, you probably didn't exude or show or display the confidence in your first podcast compared to your podcast today. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. All that means is the more you do, the more practice that you have, the better you're going to be. The same way with dog training. You're confident. You had the confidence. You're like, okay, I got the mic, I got the computer, I got my internet, I got my questions down. I'm confident I can do this. I mean, it's going to look like a soup sandwich by the time I'm done, but I'm confident I can do it. That's the same way with dog training. You may have the confidence in the beginning, but you lack the fine tuning. You lack the understanding of, okay, so my dog does this. I knew I wanted to work on this, but where did this come from? Now what do I do? And now you get flustered. Now you get upset with yourself because you're like, well, I don't know what to do now. And you just shut down. because you're just not able to figure it out quick enough. And a lot of people will get frustrated and they'll just stop or they'll freeze. And with dog training, the more you practice, the more you train, the better you are. Just like in your job, just like in flying airplanes, just like in learning how to bake a cake or to frost a cake, everything takes practice. And the more you do it, the better off you are.
So would it be safe to assume and state that from off of what you're saying there, in terms of things that we can all take away from this, confidence is the death of fear and the beginning of true leadership?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Nice. I like it. Someone stick that on a t-shirt. It's true. I think so. That's really good stuff
Do
there.
it. I like it.
Let's flip this on its head for the last question then. So like you said, I mean, the world's in a weird place right now. Things are happening. We've got loads of strays out there. There's situations everywhere, and it's not going to happen to you until it does happen to you, right? Situations do come up. So in terms of what you've seen, you know, flipping it on its head, if you are dealing with a dog attack, or if you're in a situation where you're in danger of being threatened or something, or if you know, because I was bit by a dog as a kid, you know, someone that you love like a kid or something, it's kind of being hounded by a dog or something, you know, what are the first actions? What are the first things you need to do, things to avoid, common mistakes? And is it again about imposing confidence and seeming like you're the alpha if you're in a situation that's quite dangerous with a stray dog, for example?
Yeah, and that's a good question. That's a question that not a lot of people know how to answer or how to deal with. And we see it all the time. You know, a loose dog goes after a kid riding on a bicycle, or a loose dog goes after a person that is just walking down the street. And what do you do in a situation like that? It's difficult for some people because it's like I said earlier, Mike Tyson always says, you get punched in the nose, you get a plan until you get punched in the nose, and everything goes out the window. The same thing with dog training. You know, if I were to come up, if you were walking down the street and I were to come up and I were to punch you, you'd be like, what the heck? You wouldn't have a plan. So the first thing is, I don't want to make everybody feel like they have to be hyper vigilant, like they always got to be thinking about the bad stuff. But like you said in the beginning of this question, with the world the way that it is today, we have to be thinking about stuff like that, because we're no longer living in a world and a society where we can leave our front door unlocked or leave our keys in our cars. Somebody's going to steal it, or somebody's going to break into it because they're lazy and they want to take what you have. So we have to be thinking about stuff like that and be forward thinkers, be thinking outside of the box. So when you're walking around, think outside of the box. Think about what would I do if a dog started to attack me here? Is there something on the sidewalk? Is there something in my hand? Maybe my shoe. If I'm a female, am I wearing heels? If I have something in my hand heavy, can I hit the dog and knock the dog off of me? You know, what do I do with my hands? Where is the dog biting me at? Is it biting me on my leg or my foot? Am I on the ground? Am I standing? You know, the best thing to do is to be able to stay on your feet in a dog attack. Do not go to the ground, because if you do, that dog is going to jump on you. That dog is going to basically just kind of swallow you up, bear hug you, and start biting wherever it can. In law enforcement, we teach dogs to bite in one place and to hold on. We don't teach them what we call typewriter, where they sit there and they typewriter all over you, or they let go here and they bite over here, or they bite up here. We don't teach our dogs to do that. Dogs that aren't trained will bite you wherever they can. You have a femoral artery in your neck. You have a femoral artery in your thigh. If a dog gets that with their tooth, no matter if it's a small nick or a big one, you're going to bleed out until you can get a tourniquet on that. You can't put a tourniquet on your neck. You can put a tourniquet on your thigh, but you can't put one on your neck. So you got to protect the vital parts of your body. Know where the vital parts of your body are. Your femoral arteries are what's going to kill you from a dog attack. It's not the biting that's going to kill you. It's the fact that you bleed out. So you need to protect those areas. Then you need to try to make sure that you get back on your feet. Do not stay on the ground. If you stay on the ground, the dog is going to maul you, and all you're going to do is keep rolling around like you're on fire. So you got to try to stand up. Use an object to get that dog away from you. If you are being attacked by a dog, use anything that you have and hit that dog in the head. Get that dog off of you. I don't advocate for hurting animals, but if it comes from your life versus a dog's life and you are unprovoked, if you are doing absolutely nothing wrong and you get an attack and it's unprovoked, you absolutely must fight for your life. It's just like a human. If a human come up to you and they started beating you, you're going to protect yourself, right?
Yeah.
A human is no different than a dog. You want to protect yourself from the dog just like you would from a human attack. And if that person comes up to you with a knife and they're going to stab you, you're going to get whatever you can in your hands to knock that knife out, to hit that person over the head, to gain distance from that person. Same thing with the dog. However, dogs are faster than us. So if you take off running, that dog prey drive kicks in instinctively, and that dog is going to chase you. So you got to stand your ground. Use your foot, kick the dog, push the dog away, climb up on something a little bit higher, maybe a trash can. If you can climb a pole, climb a pole. If you can close the door, close the door. Just try to protect yourself at all means. Think about things. And I always tell my new deputies, I always tell all the people that I train, think about the what ifs. What if this happens here? What am I going to do? What if there's a shooting that happens here? What if there's an earthquake? What if there's a tornado? Where would I go? What would I do? What if there is an accident? What if somebody's crossing the road and they're about to hit me? How am I going to go? Where am I going to go? How am I going to react? And then if it does happen that I become a victim of a dog bite or in a shooting situation or whatever, what resources do I have? How can I make a phone call to get help? You know, what do I need to do to protect and preserve my life? So we got to think about those things because, like you said, we're in a world today that is crazy. And it's not here in the US, and it's not just in Great Britain, it's not just in the UK, it's not just in Australia, it's all over the whole world.
Yeah.
And if we could do better as humans to get along with each other, I'm not saying we all have to love each other, but if we can all do better as humans, get along with each other and to realize that life is precious and your life doesn't mean any more than mine does, and mine doesn't mean any more than the next person. We're all equal. We're all the same. Then it would be a much safer and better place. But unfortunately, we don't live in that world, in that society nowadays. So think about the what if, think about protecting yourself. That's from animals and humans alike.
Damn right. I agree totally. And yeah, it just brought something up in my head as well, because I remember I was walking with a friend the other day on the side of the road, and we call them zebra crossings. I don't know if it's different in the States, but it's where the pedestrian has right of way to cross the road and the car has to stop. And we were together, and my friend, there was a car I saw coming quite fast towards this crossing. It didn't look like it was going to stop. And my friend literally just walked out into the road and the car stopped. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? And the person was just like, well, it's our right of way, and so they have to stop. And I just thought, that's just so dumb. Like, honestly, it does not matter that there was a right of way there or anything. That person could have been drinking, that person could be a new driver, they might have not been looking, they could have been on their phone. So I just think people kind of don't think it's going to happen to them until it actually happens to them. So like you said, to your point, I think that you don't have to be pessimistic about the world to be vigilant. I think that's what I'm kind of taking away from that too, for sure. Defo.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. Well, man, that's been a great talk. I mean, I've really enjoyed that, learned loads. So thank you so much. In terms of the stuff you got coming up, things you're working on, social media and stuff, please do take a few minutes, to kind of have your little shameless plug moment. Like I said, social media, websites, events, where we can find more on you, what you got coming up. Shameless plug away and send my people to where we can find more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, the infamous TikTok. We are on all of those social media channels. I have a public page for myself. James Craigmyle is on Instagram, X, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. My business, my company, K9 Hideaway, the letter K, the number 9 Hideaway, We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook as well. We're also on X. Everybody can find us and follow us there. We do a lot of fun, forward-thinking games and events, and just really engage with the dogs at our facility. My facility, I built luxury calming suites in it. So we have we have bedrooms for dogs. We don't have kennels. We don't have cages. We have bedrooms for dogs. They're almost completely soundproof, so it stops the dogs from having that fear and the anxiety of that dog sitting there just barking in its ear for 24 hours a day. We had a foam party the other day with the dogs. They enjoyed that. We're building a water park at my facility, so the dogs are going to get to have a water park, splash pads and a swimming pool to play in. We are literally going as luxurious as we can at my facility to make sure that these dogs who parents love get to enjoy time just as we do on vacation. So we thoroughly enjoy all of the feedback from everybody. I've actually trained dogs in Great Britain, in the UK, in Canada, in Mexico. I train via Zoom. So just like what you and I are doing here today, I can train dogs via Zoom. I don't have to be there with you. That's that confidence in that training, that years of experience, where I can teach you remotely from anywhere in the world, from your living room to mine. So very thankful for technology nowadays, because it's helping us train dogs and hopefully keep dogs from being abandoned and thrown away on the streets and put in shelters and killed just because us humans don't know how to communicate to them properly. So we'd love to have everybody following us. We have a website, www.k9-hideaway. It's letter K, number 9-hideaway.com. People can go on there. They can read my bio. They can see our facilities. We've got our pictures on there. They can follow our links. If they do want to do a Zoom training, we can do Zoom trainings, like I say, from anywhere in the world. And it's just a great opportunity to be able to interact and engage with people from across the pond over there where you guys are, to Canada and Mexico, and right here in our own backyard. Even if people have mobility issues and they can't get out of their house, but they want their dog trained, we can do that as well. So we're pretty versatile. We're getting ready to, my girlfriend and I, we're getting ready to go to Las Vegas to the Super Zoo here soon. Actually, Wednesday, we're going to learn, to get more education, to immerse ourselves. This is my first pet conference. I've always been to law enforcement and military working conferences across the United States. So this is my first pet conference. I'm excited about it, to learn from the pet industry, because it's not just military working handlers, trainers that know how to train dogs. There are some amazing pet trainers across the world. And I'm just now getting on the tip of the iceberg with the pet trainers and figuring out their world, and bringing what I've learned in law enforcement and military into the civilian world and with pets. So excited about that. I'm AKC certified, so I can instruct canine good citizens through the AKC, the American Kennel Club. And we had a lot of good things coming up. So we're excited to see where things are going. And who knows, they may see me on TV here soon.
So exciting, man. Hey, well done you. That's just absolutely brilliant. And yeah, man, thanks so much for joining me today for the Talk4 podcast. Absolute pleasure having you on. I can't wait to see more of what you're doing. It's awesome. Really is.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, and thank you for doing this. This is great. We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely. We got to do it again in the future, man. And yeah, guys, thank you for listening. This has been episode 117. If you'd like to listen to the past episodes, go and have a look at the channel. If you'd like to listen in for the future ones too, make sure to hit the subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. Signing off for now. See you next time. Fights on.